Hey, this is Gina Grad.
Hi, this is Teresa Strasser.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Errico.
Hey there. This is Casey Cavalier.
I'm Rocky Rose.
And you are listening to The Jay Franzi Show.
Lucky you.
Welcome to The Jay Franzi Show. A behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi.
Well, hello, and welcome to the show. I am Jay Franzi, and this is your backstage pass to the music industry. This week, we get to talk with a country music recording artist. We get to talk with Bryan Frazier. We'll talk to him about his signature song, Put Me in a Bar, what it was like playing at the iconic Bluebird, and we'll talk about his time opening for Phil Vassar. Now, Bryan is not only a great songwriter, he is also a great guy, funny as hell, and I can't wait to talk with him tonight. So, if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. Now, let's get started. All right, well, let's jump into the music a little bit here. Yeah. I know you got a new single coming up, but before we touch on that, let's talk about some of the stuff in the past, particularly some of the songs that seem to have become an anthem of yours. So let's talk about Put Me in a Bar.
Yeah, Put Me in a Bar has kind of been the party anthem of the, you never know what's going to hit. I would play that one live a lot. That's kind of the ending of the show, the encore type of thing when I do live shows. I had that title. It's just, like you said, I'm a fun going guy. Party songs are hard to write. I think they're harder to write than, deep, breakup songs or something, because they can be corny very quickly with those type of songs. And that one just struck a chord, definitely in like 2021. When TikTok was kind of blowing up, that one kind of took off for me and got me some followers and some fans. And still to this day, people come up and they're like, "You gonna play Put Me in a Bar?" I'm like, "Just wait, it'll happen." I was in Key West, and this dude, we go down there for a songwriters festival every year. And this guy was like, "We were down here, but I came from North Carolina to hear Put Me in a Bar." And I was playing like all these songs. We had like 7 songs to get through. And he just kept screaming, "Play Put Me in a Bar." And I'm like, "I'm going to play it. Don't worry." But that's one of my favorite songs. It's just a fun one to play. Pretty much all of it's true. A lot of it. I mean, we write what you know. It's got a ridiculous stuff in it. I know how to play Wonderwall a little bit. I know how to,
right.
Little Skinner and all the stuff. It's just kind of tongue in cheek and fun stuff. And I wrote that with Dawson Edwards, Mark Oriet, and they're 2 great writers. And they just kind of took what I had and then made it ridiculous and fun. And it still hits. It's just one of those songs that's stuck around. And I'm glad I have it in my pocket, because especially writers' rounds we play in town, we get deep, but sometimes you want to get a little fun, just get the bar up. It sells beer on the road, I'll say that too.
Nice.
So that's a plus. Yeah.
Do you feel it's become your signature song?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's definitely one of them. That one gets requested the most. And like I said, I had a guy from North Carolina, basically in Key West, come and be like, "I sought you out just to hear this song." So it's funny when you see or hear those things. You're like, "That song?" I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's always, you don't get to pick which one they love. You put it out, and then, it's out in the song world. But I would say that fits me. I have different sides, because I have those deep songs, those breakup songs, and things, a little more substance, you would say. But that's me to a core of just laughing, having fun. We're going to have a good time, drink some beer, party with some friends.
Well, I think anybody who follows you at this point can tell that you're that fun guy. You kind of have that Brad Paisley feel to you a little bit, with, where he's just constantly goofing around and having fun.
Yeah, he was actually one of the first concerts I ever saw. I think I take after him a lot. He's from West Virginia. I went to college in West Virginia, so I've grown up being a huge fan of his. Can't play guitar like him, but yeah, the whole kind of joke stuff, and then he can kind of pull out the real stuff that's deep too. I envy it. I definitely try to copy some of that stuff.
Yeah, he definitely has talent. So the song itself, let's go a little deeper. You talk about how you wrote it and lyrics that are within that song, that they all tie back to you in some way or another. But where did you record it?
So I recorded that at Saxman Studios. My buddy Alex Maxwell produced it. He's went on to kind of produce a bigger artists, Chase Matthews, a couple other dudes. But Grady Saxman is professional drummer, session guy, and he runs a studio out in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. Yeah, we recorded out there, kind of had all the session guys. It's one of those things, they run through it in like 40 minutes, and then we kind of add our own things. Alex kind of can play every instrument too. So we kind of, what we do, the more affordable way, I mean, we get help because I've known these guys for so long. Go in and we'll cut it for like, they'll put about 45 minutes of the bass track. We'll kind of have the meat and bones of it. And then Alex would kind of add on all this crazy stuff. We'll see. The more crazy, the better. I like to hear the mix and then kind of dial it back halfway, meet in the middle. But, a lot of it was Alex Maxwell. He's one of my best friends, amazing producer. Just brought that to life. I knew it was going to be decently big. My buddy Trey Lewis, the Trey Lewis of Dick Down in Dallas. He called me when he heard it and was like, "That's a hit, brother. You got to put that out." And that was one of those things where I'm like, well, Trey's thinking it's fun. I guess I got to do something with it. That's kind of the process. I mean, we wrote that song. That was one of those things. When we wrote it, it came out in 35, 40 minutes, and it was just hitters. And you could try to copy it. We've tried to write that type of fun stuff. So it's just very hard to get one that hits and it's fun. And it still has some meat to the bones, I guess you would say.
Well, you mentioned a couple of things in there I want to make sure we touch on. Mm-hmm. First of all, you said it was in your friend's studio. Is it a commercial studio?
So Grady Saxman's is a commercial studio he's built out on his house. It's just called Saxman Studios. And so we use that to do the session kind of work for the bass. And then my buddy Alex has a studio in his house, a smaller one. That's kind of what's going on with the independent world today.
Right.
Everything's done in a bedroom almost. It's insane the amount of stuff you can do with Pro Tools with the right person who knows what they're doing. And we recorded vocals for that just pretty much in a bedroom studio. I mean, he has a pretty well done bedroom studio, kind of like yours, what I'm seeing there. Still in a bedroom in a house, which is the wild part. I don't think a lot of people know the amount of huge songs that come out of that type of stuff.
Right.
Because unfortunately, what's happened in Nashville, a lot of the bigger studios have just been taken over. It's a sad thing, but I've had the opportunity to record in some of them, but it's pretty much gone, and you pretty much have to you end up in houses. I mean, Grady Saxman Studio is a legit studio, but it is a house.
Oh yeah, all of Music Row was like that.
Mm-hmm.
Music Row, before the condos and apartments, were all houses that were just studios and record labels and publishing houses. So I get that for sure. Now, you said you used the studio session guys, and a lot of times what happens for artists like yourself is you'll go in and share time. Did you share time, or did these people come in specifically for your song?
Yeah, to save money, we would share. I was able to, Grady kind of would help with Alex and I and kind of just fit us in when we needed it. And that's kind of how I've done singles with him through the past, is just kind of fit us in when we can. And
it's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, makes it a little bit more affordable. Like I said, once you start telling people how much it costs to even make music, even in a small part, it's still expensive. And the players that you can get in Nashville, as you know, being in Nashville when you lived here, like it's the coolest thing, because living in Northern Virginia, like I did a little EP when I was in college, and like it was good, but like the amount of talent you can get in an hour here is insane. And it's just the coolest thing to have here. I think that's what makes us unique, is still to this day, you can go in and show them a work tape or a small demo, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, we get it. This is the vibe."
Yep.
Tell them like 3 things.
They listen to like 10 or 20 seconds of your song, and they go in the other room, and 3 minutes later it's done.
I'm used to it now, but every time it's still special when I see it, because I just smile and laugh. I'll be in the booth and be like, "Yeah, this is just another one." They do it so easily and effortlessly. It's insane.
No, I had the pleasure of working with a guy named Bob Bullock, a big producer in town, and I got to work on a lot of the big sessions, and every one of them was equally as impressive as the last time I got to see it, just one after another.
They don't stop. Yeah, it's another world that I think deserves respect, that doesn't really get it, because they're the guys behind the scenes most of the time. They're just lunch pail dudes. They show up, put in 8 hours a day, and they're just making people's songs sound cool.
I like that, lunch pail. I like that a lot. So let's go back to Alex for a second. So Alex produced it for you, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of producer is he?
He's produced about 6 of my singles. He did not want to produce songs at first. We've just kind of grown up in town together. And my first single with him was called Last I Heard. It was just a song we wrote. And I was like, "Hey man, can you just help me why don't you record it? Like, you're doing all these demos. You just graduated Belmont. You know what to do." And he was like, "Man, I don't know. And then I got forced him, not forced him, but he was like, "Okay." And now he's getting to the point where he's becoming a very well-known producer and definitely a wanted man in that world. And it's
You said he worked with Chase Matthews as well.
yeah, that's who he's producing now mostly, and some younger artists named like Colin, Stough, and a few other people. Somewhat works with me. I mean, we write a lot. He doesn't produce now. My newer stuff is actually one of our best friends who's kind of handed me off. We a guy named Chris Utley is the newer producer of some of the last 3 singles. Wasn't any bad blood. Alex has just gotten too busy in a good way. My best friend having so much success, so proud of him. It's just that's the way that works. But he got into that, and you need a producer because I can tell these studio musicians certain things, but there's just lingo when you're in the room that a person like that with the music background can really. I'm a songwriter artist. I can't tell them to be like, hey, do the 4 a little bit, 1 4 5. Let's hey, how about you do this solo a little different? I can give little things like I would say I'm a 50% producer, but I love having a guy in there to kind of always hammer out stuff. And I respect anyone who's an artist who just solo produces because it's still really hard.
Oh, it's tough.
Yeah, it's really tough. And like you need someone there to kind of speak their language because it makes those guys easier too. They deal with some people where they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just going to play. And then that doesn't come out right. So you got to have someone on your side. Yeah, a producer like that's always needed.
So when you talk about this, and you mentioned Chase Matthews is roughly the same age range as you are, and do you consider yourself to be part of that class of musicians in Nashville now?
Songwriter-wise, yeah. I'm not as big as Chase Matthews. I've been in town. This will be 10 years in November, so not as massive as him.
10-year city, right?
10-year city, 10-year town. So we're almost there. I'd say like medium level. I mean, at this point, artist-wise, I'm still a small, medium level artist, just grinding every day, trying to put out. I'm independent. I still do everything myself. I mean, I have some friends that help me, like Alex, like Chris, and a lot of good writers and stuff helping me out. We co-write and come out with these stuff. But anything you see media-wise, it's all me still. It's a lot of it. And that's why you see my touch on it and stuff.
Well, that's why it resonates.
And thank you. And I think it does. You see there's not fakeness. It's everyone's always like, be real. If you like me or not, I just want to have fun. We want to laugh. And then I want to hit you with a song every once in a while that makes you feel something. That's why we all get into it. That's why I got into it. I'd say we're getting there. I've slowly in the past 3 years, I feel like I've had more success, gotten more gigs off of it. TikTok's definitely helped. Streams have definitely gone up and up. You know, it's a good thing to start seeing everything culminate after 10 years of work, but it never stops is the thing. You're always on to the next thing, you know.
Well, no matter who you talk to, a younger artist that's just coming up or a seasoned artist that's just winding down, they all say the same things. I mean, the stories are still the same no matter how far in your career you go. You talk about Chase Matthews and you say you're not quite as big or as far as he is at this point, but he's still brand new himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not headlining shows yet. He's still opening act. I mean, he's great. I love him. I mean, don't get me wrong at all. I follow him. I love his music, but he's still new. And I think, you're right there with him. And I don't think it would take much for you to fill those shoes here in the next year or so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, need those compliments. You got to keep it going.
It's the money that you gave me earlier that got that.
Yeah. The PayPal cleared, man.
Right. PayPal went through. We can milk it up a little bit. So, yeah, as far as the music goes, one of the things I enjoy about your music is it's truly got a little bit more power to it. It's a little bit more aggressive. Do you do that on purpose?
Yeah, that's just kind of how I grew up in music. I mean, I've always liked country music. That's been the first thing, but I grew up with 2000s rock and all the stuff that's becoming re-popular now, and I love it. I think it's hilarious because I was always about it. The power chords. My voice kind of is, I think, more shown in those type of situations. The way I write songs and the way my vocals, when I start to learn them, it just kind of pushes that way. I have more of a tendency to do that type of singing and stuff. That's what I naturally do. So more in your face kind of stuff. But yeah, it's the kind of like, Jason Aldean rock and stuff I've always loved that. That's what I grew up doing. And naturally you kind of do it without even noticing because that's just the way I sing.
Right. That's who you are, right?
I'll have buddies when we're in the writing room be like, well, this is a Bryan Frazier song. You're about to do, okay, we get it. Because when I first moved to town, I did not know. They always say you'll find something. You just think you're the coolest kid. Oh, I know what I'm doing. It's like, no, I had no clue.
No, you don't.
Like I was singing open mics and just trying to figure out how to really, I could sing, but like find your voice truly. And that is what I think I've finally, in the past couple of years, found my voice, just exactly what you were saying, those power chords. And we try to get a little different in those mixes. And Alex and Chris have both, I like being creative because they always are like, is this too crazy? And I'm like, no, I want it to sound a little different, but still have an avenue with it. And I think we've accomplished that. Love a good B3 though. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, you got B3 all over the place. I love it. It's one of my favorite instruments. We used to have Charlie Judge come in and play B3 on all the stuff that I would produce.
Oh, hell yeah.
It makes things more rockin' versus just having a piano.
Mm-hmm.
But like you mentioned, having a rock background, I mean, I grew up in Boston. It was all about rock music. And when I moved to Nashville, that's when country came into my life because that's what I was working on. When I got to finally produce records of my own when I wasn't working for somebody else, they always had a more rock edge to them, similar to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the heavier style stuff in the country music. And I say that because your voice, you say your voice lends itself to that, but it's got a gravel feel to it. And even when you do your cover tunes, I see you do a lot of cover tunes on TikTok and Instagram. You did one that I liked, which was Kryptonite, 3 Doors Down. Oh, yeah. So that's what made me start following you in the first place is I connected to it because it was a unique version of it. But are you choosing to pick rock songs purposely?
Yeah, I mean, those are just the songs. When I was in high school, I would play around campfires and we would all love. So like, I've just always known those songs. And it's just funny they've become more popular as we've gone through it. Because even when I do headlining gigs or opening sets, like Kryptonite, that's always my song. I'm always going to play that. Like, it's always fit my voice. I love that song. I'm a huge 3 Doors Down fan. It just fits and it just hits. I mean, when they hit, and they're just fun to do acoustic. I mean, doing Creed, doing Nickelback, the 3 Doors Down, all those songs are just fun to do acoustic. Now everyone's on the bandwagon though, so I guess I got to find a new genre.
I like when people do that, when they put a twist on a different genre.
Yeah, I think it's unique. I mean, I like doing deep cuts. Sometimes they don't do as much numbers as I'd like, but I'm a fan of different stuff. Like the Fray has gotten, that type of stuff. Even Louis Capaldi and stuff like that. Anything that's just kind of piques my interest. That's how I pick them. I think if it's a cool song and it's got a cool melody, it just hits me, I'm going to try to do a cover of it, especially those songs that I just have good memories with, hanging with my buddies, riding around. Like, oh, that's the song. Yeah, I think I should do that acoustic.
Can you tell us how the video came about?
Yeah. The video came about. I have one of my best buddies. He's a content guy for a lot of different artists. His name's Trey Bonner. And I've kind of come up with him too. He's become more successful, gotten some great gigs and stuff, and he always helps me out, things like that. We kind of did it just, the very old school bootstrapping it again. Like we just, he has the cameras and the camera work and knows how to do things, but try to do it as cheaply as possible and just as fun as possible. We ended up having a boat. I had a buddy that was out on a lake and met this guy who had constructed a boat during the pandemic from nothing but things he got at Home Depot, like jugs, plywood, put it all together. And he asked him, he's like, could you view my buddy's music video? And guy was like, hell yeah. I tried to pay this guy. He wouldn't. He was like, no, just, you don't have to tag me. You can just use my boat. So that's kind of the main start of it. We were like, this would be funny just to have this ridiculous boat.
Right. It goes back to your humor.
Yeah, and you'll see that. And just try to toe the line and just to have some media for it to where it just is fun. I mean, we were on a football field we weren't supposed to be on. We did everything without permits, like the independent way is. So some of the shots are actually at this night we put on 2 times a year called Butt Rock Night. The co-founder of this thing with my buddies at Raised Rowdy, where we kind of do a rock night, 2000s rock night. We get all the country singers and singer-songwriters to come out and play their favorite hits with some session guys behind us. And there's some clips from that night that we kind of were able to use in the Put Me in a Bar video. So it's really pieced together in the wildest way, but I think it worked out. It kind of fits the mood of the song. It's just fun. The boat, if you see it, it's the most ridiculous thing. That guy really just built it himself, and he just took us out on Percy Priest here and let us film with a drone and stuff. And so we got some funny clips with that, and just fits the crazy redneck vibe I was going for, because Just here to have fun, man.
Well, that's what it is. Like I said, it fits your humor. I think it works out really cool.
That's the independent way. I've been on my friends, like Trey has had a video where he had all the permits and stuff, and it was funny to be on one that's actually where they're doing it right. we're just showing up and just trying to not get the police call on us at this point.
Yeah, that's what it's about. All right, well, let's talk about another song of yours, This Side of the Dirt. I bring it up because it's a duet.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about the person you were doing the duet with, and then tell me about the song itself?
So I did this song with a buddy of mine named Mark Oriet. He's also one of the guys who wrote Put Me in a Bar, and one of my best friends and co-writers on a lot of my songs. That song specifically came out of a co-write it was a four-way with me, Mark Oriet, Eli Locke, and a guy named Cody Parks. It just came out it was one of those where it just hit and you're just like, did that just happen? We weren't even supposed to be in a four-way. People just double booked and we were like, let's all just write together. Cody had this idea called This Side of the Dirt. We didn't know where to take it exactly. And I've had a friend pass away when I was just like 18 from bacterial meningitis, real random incident, ended up passing. And we kind of went down this whole, like, everyone's had someone that they've loved that really just left Earth too soon, and kind of just spit that whole idea out really quick. And the weirdest part is Mark didn't want to say anything, but that morning, a friend of his who had passed 5 years earlier, the dad called him before that co-write and was like, hey man, I'm just checking in, just seeing what you're doing. And then basically was like, hey, he'd love what you're doing, man. He would be proud of you, talking about this individual. And Mark didn't want to discuss that till after the write because he was like, I don't want to mess this up when we were in it. We wrote that song quick too, probably like in 2 hours. It's just a real meaningful song. That is one of my favorite songs to play live because, again, I think everyone has lived that. You have people that literally get gone too soon, and it's close to my heart because every time I play it, I think about this person, and Mark does too. And it kind of became a thing where I love Mark. Mark's a great artist too. Look up Mark Oriet. And it was one of those things where I was like, man, we should just do this as a duet. I love your voice on this. I think it would be cool. It's kind of like rising tides float all ships here. Like, let's try to get both of our fan bases into this. And just cool to have your best friend on something. And he had a part of this song, and he has his own story, and I have my own story, but it's the same thing. And that's kind of why I think it relates to so many people, because it's like we all have that story. Put it out and did pretty well. And again, I'd still have people come up and kind of tell me their stories that they've had happen of people passing too soon or something in that song. The wildest part is when, as a songwriter, you get someone to actually have an emotional reaction. And that song, every once in a while, gets an emotional reaction, and it still gives me an emotional reaction. So that's what you love about music. And I love This Side of the Dirt. That's still one of my favorites.
You mentioned a couple things I want to make sure we talk about. We don't let them pass. One of them is, you said there was a 4-person co-write there. When you're dealing with that many songwriters, do you feel that they're all contributing equally?
Yeah, to me, when it comes to 4-ways, it really just depends who you're with. Sometimes you'll get put in rooms, if it's a person I don't know, I would rather not be put in a 4-way. I've been put in 5-ways. Honestly, oddly, the both 5-ways I've gotten songs cut. I don't know, just like the one you make money on. You're like, thanks, man. But those are with my best friends, and like this one was with people I have all collectively written probably like 150 songs with. So it kind of comes easy. But if it's a new person that I just met that I hardly have never written a song with, it's a little harder. And I wouldn't say it's easy to contribute because you don't know what your job is. There's always with a 4-way, there's going to be someone doing the melody. There might be someone might take it over and be like, this is what we're doing. And it makes it a little harder to put your spin on it. But if everyone's comfortable with each other, it really brings out kind of the best. But it can go south too. That's why a lot of people want to keep it to 3, because sometimes you can have too many cooks in the kitchen and it just doesn't come out right. That one specifically is probably one of the best 4-ways I've had. But yeah, it's different every time. That's the funny thing with co-writing and stuff. But when you have people like that, like Mark and I write every other week. So, and Cody too, and Eli, all of them I have monthly writes with. So it's easy to go about. But new people, it's definitely hard to stake your claim in the co-writing room. If you're doing 4-ways or 5-ways, it just gets difficult. I think that's why we do keep it to 3 most of the time. It's usually the sweet spot of creativeness and not like 1-2 people take over, and then you're like, well, I didn't do anything with that song. I've been in those rights too, where you're just like, I don't think I did much other than give them the title. I don't know. I was trying, but best line wins, best melody wins always. But it's an interesting thing we do in Nashville, though. Yeah,
It really is. And that's one of the things I was just going to ask you too, is when you go into these co-writes, are you looking to team up with people who specialize in a particular area, like maybe a lyricist or somebody who's good at crafting a line?
Oh yeah, sometimes depends what we're writing for. Every day's different. Sometimes if I'm like we're trying to get a song for me, it definitely helps too in Nashville. Like my producers, Alex and Chris Utley, Alex Maxwell, Chris Utley, they're both songwriters, but they're also track guys. So they're able to kind of bring a different element to that, to where they already have kind of a vibe in a song on a track that we can write to, and that's a whole different level. I like doing that sometimes. I don't like doing it all the time, but like it does bring creativeness once you get stale just sitting on the guitar the whole time. But it's different every time, I feel like. And I know it's a weird answer, but it's always different. And it just depends who it is. There's certain people you can vibe with and certain people you don't. And I've had people I've known for years, and we get in the room and I'm like, this isn't working. I wish it would. Like it's the way it works.
That's all right. Those days happen too.
Yeah.
So which one of the guys produced this song?
It was Alex Maxwell. That's another one of the Alex Maxwell cuts he got. Yeah.
All right. So was it Alex or was it the drummer who came up with the idea to start the song with a loop?
That was Alex. So we had the raise 'em up high, and that always, every time we played that live, was a kind of a catchy thing we would do in the verse or the kind of post-chorus thing. And he's the one, that was all his production type of stuff. He was like, what about this? I'm like, that is awesome. Let's do that. Just a creative thing. And that's why I love having a producer like that. I would not have thought of that. And he thought of that. And he's like, do you think it's too crazy? I'm like, no, put that in there. That makes it to me. Because that's just the catchy thing, the ring, and the meaningful part of it.
Well, it's definitely ear candy too. And then when the drums do finally kick in, it's more full sound, and you can hear that verb on the snare drum and stuff at that point. Mm-hmm. It really adds a little bit more feeling to the song, in my opinion. And then you reintroduce the loop, or he reintroduced the loop. So, I mean, it was really a really cool touch. But the song's a little slower, so it adds a little bit more of that feel. Because I mean, the subject matter is a little heavy.
That's the thing with a heavy song like that. We didn't want to get too. It's just it's hard to keep people's attention for that. Not everyone wants to hear a song about their friend dying. That's why the one part would raise them up, because that's what we always did for my buddy, and Mark always said that too. You're like, hey, this one's for them, man. Pour one out when we be around a bonfire or anything, and just think about them. And I think the ear candy makes it to where you're just like, all right, it's still. You don't want to kill yourself. You don't want to do it, but you're wanting to look back and think.
It's a tribute.
Yeah, think about the good times and everything you went through in life. So.
Absolutely. That note, let's lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Your next song I want to talk about, Damn BNA. You have a connection with Cracker Barrel. How did that come about?
Yeah, so that is one of my favorite songs. I love that song so much, and Alex produced that one too, and he killed that track. But marketing wise, it was the middle of the pandemic. We were just trying to get something going, and just came up with this idea. I like going to Cracker Barrel. I always have wanted what I call a Cracker Barrel cut, where I get one of those CDs.
Right.
The Cracker Barrel, it's usually gospel albums and stuff, so don't have that. But kind of got my wife to go in and film us looking crazy on an iPhone, and just was like, hey, just gonna go see my new single at Cracker Barrel. Then we walked in, go to the CD rack, and then I'm like, actually, they don't have it. Please precede my song. It's just one of those bits you think of the last minute.
It was funny. It was a cool thing to do.
It's always the bits that you don't spend any time on, really, that
right.
hit. People just go, oh, that's creative. Heck yeah. The ones you spend hours on, they're like, no one cares. That's
right, because those are the ones that everybody does. When you're doing this little off-the-wall thing at Cracker Barrel, nobody does that. Nobody's going to do that.
It's a funny thing that modern artists have to do now. I always have liked doing it, but sometimes it gets a little much. But it's funny. You got to create these little skits and stuff and just try to keep people's attention in a crazy world of reels and TikToks just continually going. So
did you write this song with the same group of people?
So I wrote that with it was a three-way: me, Mark Oriet, and Eli Locke. And I had that title for a long time. No one really wanted to write with me. I get why they would. It's a weird title, Damn DNA. I'm an aviation nerd, so I always just like airport songs. I know it sounds weird, but and relationship songs, mixing them together. And then I actually got that title off of an Instagram. There's a girl I know, I won't put her name out. She doesn't even know this. And she just was stuck at B&A for some reason, like in the TSA line. She was like, damn B&A. I just wrote it down one day. It just kept being like a weird, like, if we could spin this right. And then Mark finally was the one that's like, all right, let's just make it, if, you know, like I've had a girl move away like that, not to that extent, but let's make it about a girl leaving Nashville, just going to LA. And the only thing you can blame is that airport that took her away. And it's been a funny thing because anytime people get stuck at B&A, they just tag me in the song. So it's like an odd marketing thing I didn't even expect. But I'm proud of that song. The production on that, I love it. Putting the airplane in and thing was my idea. But Alex killed that. It just has if there's like Put Me in a Bar is my party stuff. The Damn B&A would be my, you know, soulful, like heartbreak. I love a heartbreak rocking song. It's like, yeah, she's gone. She ain't ever coming back. I just can't get enough of those type of songs. That one's hit. I love it. And I love the album cover was done by a guy named Steve Meckler. And he came up with, I wanted to do the Nashville carpet, but he was like, I might get sued for that. So he came up with the idea to put an airplane ticket and make it the whole thing. And it's been cool. I love that song. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you mentioned writing with your buddy again. You wrote it with Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So you seem to have a consistency with Mark in all of this. So I'm sure you guys have a very tight relationship. So tell me about some of the things that have gone off the rails, some of the, you know, behind the scenes stuff that's happened with him that we might not typically get to see.
I met him this is another Key West situation. Since we go down there every year for this BMI Songwriters Fest, I met him in like 2016. I was just playing this random bar. I had this song. I still play it randomly. It's a fun song. It's just an older one. It's not out. It's called Booze Tubing. It's just about tubing on the river, you know, having some beers. And he came up to me afterwards and was like, I think we're going to be buddies, man. I love that song. And then literally we've been best friends since. And it's just one of those writing relationships where you click and you're like, you get me, I get you. His vocals are a lot like me, so it's easier to write with him melodic wise. Sometimes I'll be in writes and, you know, if we're writing for me specifically, if it's in a different key or something or we're forcing it, it's just easier for me he has the same vocal tendencies too. So it's easy to just get some songs. And he's just one of the best writers I've been around and just very creative. And he'll take my dumb ideas and make it better. That's the greatest thing about co-writing. He argued with me over that damn B&A for a long time. And then he goes, all right, I get it. I think we can do this.
So tell me something crazy.
So I don't know if we could legally do it. What else? He likes shooting fireworks when he's drunk at me. That lot. We were playing Roman candle baseball about a couple months ago when we were at his house. That got a little wild. My wife and his wife did not like that. So, but you know, duck here. We got out unscathed, thankfully. We just have a lot of fun together. We're always we play a lot of rounds in town. He's one of the main guys. I'm actually playing. Well, next month I'll be playing the Bluebird with him, the 25th.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. I mean,
Yeah.
Bluebird, iconic place. I mean, anybody who's written a really great song has played at the Bluebird. And it's one of those venues where it focuses on songwriting. I mean, they want you to be quiet. They want you to focus on the writer. So what was it like the first time you played there?
Scary as hell. It's like being in someone's living room with 90 people just like this. But it's the coolest thing on earth because it's a listening room. They have to be silent. People are there because they care about songs. So you're able to play songs that, you know, sometimes you get influenced if you're at a bar having to do a set and you're like, all right, I can't play this deeper one sometimes. People need it. It's easy to play just good. You can have a whole set list of good songs that you're just like, heck yeah. They're listening to every lyric. And it's just such a weird, they call it the mother church of songwriting because like the mother church of country music's the Ryman. And it is that place is in a strip mall in Green Hills, 1982. It's been the same thing. And it's been a huge help for my career. They have helped me immensely. I've been put on big writers rounds in Key West here at 3rd and Lindsley. They do a thing. I got to play with some people there, but it's a venue unlike any other. And like I said, it's, people come up to you after the show and they're just talking about lines and, oh, that bridge you had, like things you don't get at a normal show usually. They're there for the songwriting. And as a songwriter from the start, like I'm an artist, but songwriting is why I moved to town. It's the coolest venue you can ever get the opportunity to play. And you kind of got to work your way up to get to the point where you get these rounds actually. Because I played their open mic, and then you have to audition for a Sunday writers night, and then you have to play that 4 or 5 times, and they rate you on that, and then you finally get your own round. So kind of put in the work to climb the ladder there, and they've been nothing but great to me. They're very supportive of the songwriting community, and it's so neat to just have a place like that to go to and play. People listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's running it these days?
Is Erica Wallem Nichols. She's the GM. She's an amazing woman. She's helped me a lot through the years and put me in things they didn't have to put me in, but they like me some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why. You got a new single coming out, Wild Girl. Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm pumped for this one. I've been working on some music with my newer producer, Chris Utley. It's just, I'd say it's just a wild or something like that. You know, everyone had one of those girls back in the day that you didn't marry, but you had some damn good crazy times with her. At least I did, and I think most people can relate having a summer with a girl where you're like, probably shouldn't be with her, but damn, it was fun. That's the whole song, and it's got some tongue-in-cheek stuff, some funnier. I feel like it meets in the middle of the Put Me in a Bar and kind of like a love song in a way, but it's 100% me. I wrote it with my buddy Jonathan Bradley, and I had that hook, Wild Girl, and I didn't know what to do with it really. And that's another one that came out quick, probably in 2.5 hours, not too bad. And it talks about she had a Redskins hat her daddy gave her. I mean, I can picture this girl. I'm not going to say her name. She might track me down, try to show up at my house, but I can picture the girl right now that I'm talking about. So it's pretty real.
What does your wife think about it?
Oh, well, she's on the album cover. So that's how I got her to like it now. She thought it was fun. It's one of those things where my wife's fully supportive, but I don't put out songs that she doesn't like. You wouldn't be a good singer-songwriter husband if you're like, it's got to go through the process of things. But I was trying to be creative with the album.
She still has to bless it.
Yeah, basically a little bit. Like I'll be like, hey, I really like this song, but what do you think? And she'll tell me when they're not good or they suck. You need someone to tell you like, hey, that ain't it, man. It's not like grandma being like, every song you write's great, because they're not all good. But the album cover is a girl wearing a Redskins hat and with some aviators, and it's actually an illustration of her. So like that's the funny part that we got going. I have a guy outside of Texas that does these really cool illustrations, and I was like, I basically just got my wife in the hat and the glasses and was like, I need to take a picture real quick. It's like, you're gonna be an album cover. Nice. Wait. So I think that's why she's okay with it too. But she also is like, yeah, I understand. I was a wild girl 1.2.
Oh boy. All right. Hope she's not listening tonight.
Nah.
I laugh because my wife is like that for me. You know, my wife is very talented. I met her working in the music industry when I was recording records. She was a photographer and a graphic artist, so she would do all the album artwork and photos for these artists that we were working with. Very creative, very good at what she does. But holy cow, can that woman critique everything that I do? And I can't argue because she's typically right. I won't tell her that, but she's typically right.
Same here. I know. You got to have one to keep you in your place, especially when you're in the arts, the creative world. You're like, hey, you don't want them being like, we love you. You're amazing. Everything's great. Sometimes they do go a little over the line. You're like, I get it. It's not good.
Right. Well, we've talked about you going in and writing songs. Let's talk about the approach you take when you're writing a song. Do you take lyrics or music first? So it's another thing that's different sometimes. I mean, I always have ideas. I never go to a write without. I have a hook book and I'm always writing. If I'm at a bar, a coffee shop, any weird event, something comes to me, someone said something, I'm writing it down in my iPhone notes. So I have 1,000 titles and kind of comes from that. I try to start with that. Usually we all come in with an idea, hash it out, see who has the best idea, what we're feeling that day. If we're writing with Alex or Chris, those producer guys that I'm talking about, they sometimes have a track. And I'm like, well, what about this idea to that track? This kind of sounds like like you say, a rockin' love song, or this is a breakup song. This would be perfect for that. And just try to have a kind of a roster of ideas really ready to go. Because the worst thing you want to be in a write is just coming in with nothing and being like, I don't know, what do you guys have? Because I've been on the other end of that where I'm like, am I bringing everything to this? I don't really like being the only person writing this right now. And you kind of weed those people out quickly when you're writing with those type of people. But
It starts usually with the lyrics, I'd say, because it's the title. I'm a title guy. I'm like, or an idea at least, not a title, but kind of the hashed out idea. I'd say that's like 60% of the time. 40% of the time, I'll have a lick or something. I'm not the world's greatest guitarist. I can get through things. I'm decent enough to play live and stuff. I have other buddies that will come in with a lick and just be like, we're writing that today. Because even like this side of the dirt, kind of, we had that title. Mark starts strumming that pattern, going from a D, G, like doing this little walk up thing. And I was like, that's it. Let's write to that. And sometimes I'll bring in a little chord structure riff thing that we'll write off of. But most of the time it's the lyrics, I'd say. I know it's different for everybody. And it's different every time, but I'd say the lyrics always start because it's got to start with a good idea to where you hash it out and you're like, all right, I get this. We can kind of, can we switch this and make it cooler? Can we kind of make this a basic idea seem, put me to bar is a pretty basic idea. Can we really turn it around and be like, heck yeah, that's different.
I can see that too. I mean, when I first moved to Nashville, it was in 99. And the very first person I met was a guy named Jim Cristaldi. Great songwriter, great musician. I mean, plays just about every instrument. And I worked with him producing records from that point till this point. I mean, he's just amazing. One of the most underrated musicians I've ever met in my life. But it was the friendship that came, like you're describing with Mark. So when it came time to write songs or do things, it was good to work with somebody like that. So I could definitely see how you would take that approach with somebody. But the next thing I wanted to touch on real quick was one of the very first projects I got to do when I moved to Nashville. I wanted to work in the studio. I wanted to record and work with producers that were making big records that you would hear on the radio. But the first gig I got was working live sound, and it was for a guy named Phil Vassar.
Oh, yeah.
And Keith Urban opened up for Phil Vassar. So, I mean, that's how far back this was.
Wow.
But you had a chance to open up for Phil Vassar. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I did open up for Phil Vassar. Yeah, it was an awesome opportunity. Being a Virginia boy, he's one of the biggest artists to ever come out of Virginia, singer-songwriter wise. And I'm from Winchester, Virginia, in Northern Virginia. And there's a town next to it called Leesburg. There's a venue there called Tally-Ho. And I got the opportunity to kind of scheme my way in to kind of get for a lot of the early bookings have been me faking an agent and just trying to get in. It wasn't through Phil's people or anything. I was just like, is this a way I can beat Phil Vassar? Please, I'll open, I'll do whatever. And ended up getting lucky enough. He said it was okay because they have to say yes to these opening acts, just kind of to vet them, which I get. It was an awesome experience to see him live and meet him afterwards. And, you know, he's so gracious, just the nicest human being and just one of those talented singer-songwriters. It's insane. And the hits he has and the amount the way he can perform still, even, I mean, he's been doing it for forever, but I mean, it's insane to see. And his band is still, a good artist too, like this. He's had the same band for a long time. It's like his main lead guitarist is the same guy. And that's just to mean something if they don't leave like that. So it was just an awesome experience. Got to play my songs, got to, have him be like, hey man, keep on keeping on, just to hear some kind words from a fellow Virginian. There's not a lot of us, honestly, down here doing it, and he's kind of the GOAT, Hall of Fame guy that's from our area that's doing it. And that's probably one of the coolest experiences opening for an artist that I've ever had because was so meaningful. He's a songwriter first, too.
Oh, yeah. He was a songwriter for years before he went off to be an artist. I like the stuff he did with Jody Messina, a fellow Bostonian, I have to mention her.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, those songs were great. His songs are always great. And I think he's very underrated, not only for his songwriting, which is amazing, and great storytelling, great chord changes, great musicianship behind it. But, man, he's an amazing piano player. I mean, what a great talent. I then was producing an artist in Connecticut. And he came to the casino in Connecticut and played a show there. And the artist I was producing was opening up for him. So I got to reconnect with him then. And, I mean, like you said, he was just the nicest guy. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's cool when you meet your heroes and they're actually, sometimes you never want to meet your heroes.
Yeah, I've had it go both ways.
Yeah, you meet them on sometimes a bad night. I understand that. You play on the Red. Sometimes you're like, hey, they're not mean, but they're just like pass by like, hey. And when you meet your heroes and they're exactly who you thought they were, it's an awesome thing. So love you, Phil. please take me on tour, Phil Vassar.
Right. Let's give him a call right after this.
Right? Yeah.
No, I mean, he was always great. And like you said, I have worked with both, so I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah, it's amazing still. He's the goal of anyone, I feel like. Yes, he's playing smaller venues, but there's still 1,500, 2,000 seat caps, and like he can do that forever, and that is awesome.
I would rather see a show like that.
100%. It's a little more his type of show. Broke down with that piano and everything in a small room it's amazing. So.
All right, sir. Well, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we take a moment to shine the light on somebody who works behind the scenes or somebody who may have supported you along the way. Do you have anybody you'd like to shine a little light on?
Oh yeah, I'd say. I mean, it's probably stereotypical, but my mom and dad, and they've been there from the start, from the moment they bought me my first real guitar when I was 13. They gave a Martin D16 to a 13-year-old, and then I don't know if they knew what was going to happen, but this is what it turned into. But they've been the most supportive people on earth, still are, and they just could not be. A lot of people. This is a crazy dream to be on ride, and the support and things they've done to get me to this point even are astronomical, and you just can't get better parents to support people. And some people in the music industry don't have anyone to really get them. They're all on their own, and it takes a tribe. It really does. My wife would be another one. I mean, she's dealt with the ups and downs, but my parents have been there from the start, and I don't think they knew what they were doing. They got me addicted to country music early on with an Alan Jackson concert and an Alabama concert. So it's all been going up from there, and they're definitely my unsung heroes, because till this day, if I'm in Virginia, they'll drive 5 or 6 hours just to be front row, just to be supportive, and anything they can do, even till this day, just to keep the music going, they definitely will support. And they've never once said like, you're not going to go get a real job or something. Like, it's insane. I mean, I graduated college, and they made sure they were like, if you're going to go do this, you need to get a degree. I got a business degree, and then they were like, all right, I think it's time you need to go to Nashville, and we'll figure this out. So, and my dad was the one that like stepped me aside and was like, I think you need to try Nashville, which is, I think, the opposite. Usually for most people, your parents are usually like, what are you doing? Yeah.
A big thanks to Brian for taking the time to share his stories with us. And thank you for taking the time to hang with me here. As always, I really do appreciate it. If you know anyone that would enjoy this episode, please be sure to share it. You can do that and find the links to everything mentioned over at jfranzi.com/episode 92. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franzi Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranzi.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.